Kelly Zendrian, founder of AtoZ Communications, and this is the Brand Stories podcast. This is where we talk about everything related to marketing, public relations, and just branding in general. This week, we're very fortunate to have Kristen on the podcast. She is quite the niche marketing expert. She's even written the book on it, literally, Uncomparable. Looking forward to sharing all of her wisdom and why now is the time, especially, to focus on your niche. Kristen, I am so excited to have you. I'm also grateful that LinkedIn connected us to each other. So way to go, community. Thank you for introducing me to the fabulous Kristen. How are you doing?
I'm great, Allie. How are you?
Good. Thank you. As the first question that I ask everybody, it's sort of the anchoring question, at least at the start. What's your favorite brand and why?
So the one that comes to mind first is Costco. I know it's not very sexy at all, but what I love about it is like just how they just really focus on quality. Like they only bring in the best stuff. It's not about volume. It's not about like how many different versions of this product can we have, but they go out and they find the best. And then they figure out how to deliver it in the most efficient way possible. And for a long time, I was really anti-Costco because I'm like, oh, it's just like it's a warehouse and all of that. And then I realized just how brilliant they are. Like, they pick the best products. They even use their own brand on these products. We don't even know what the actual brand is, but it's something really high quality. And it's just like no frills. They don't give you bags and you don't have beautiful displays. They just put it out there so you have the best value. So I think the quality and the value just makes it a really excellent brand.
I have to agree. So I will purposely try to get all of my produce from Costco just because same thing. I feel like A, it lasts so much longer, and B, it really is of better quality. So you have very good taste.
Produce is good. I go for my wine and my
We have them in
alcohol.
New York. I'm jealous.
Oh, okay. Yes. In California, you should see the liquor selection. It's insane there. And you're getting some of like these best wines for like $7 a bottle. So yeah, it's great. And then
Can
of
I send you a
course,
gift card and you can like ship us?
absolutely, absolutely.
Cool. Well, we discussed, and among the ways that we met is you're in the marketing space, but specifically in niche marketing. For anybody who might not be familiar with what that is, how would you explain how that's different from just umbrella term marketing?
So, I mean, marketing is such a big term and it can really mean anything. It can be PR, like what you're in. It could be branding. It can be search engine optimization or answer engine optimization, which is what we're talking about more now, which is for AI search. It can be TV ads. It's just so many different things. And one of the hardest things about marketing is which do you choose? Which is going to work? And no one really knows. And so I really focus on niche marketing, which is really picking one group of people that all have very similar characteristics and they all share a common problem. Because once you can picture that in your mind, it's really easy to think about what kind of marketing you're going to do for them. So if you think like business owners, I don't think business owners by itself is a niche, but if you think of like business owners that are about to exit their business. So now we know like what message we want to say to them. And it's much clearer on where you can go to reach these people. You can look at executive coaches or peer groups or which publications they're reading. And so, I mean, niche marketing is really just about having focus and knowing exactly who you're talking to and where to go. It can be on the broader side, like I just said, business owners that are preparing to sell their business, but it can be a lot more narrow. It could be business owners in trucking and transportation that are selling their business. So there's not really like a degree of which you should be defining your niche, but it definitely makes it easier when you have a clear focus.
So it's like you read my mind. I was actually going to ask you in 2026 if you feel like, so you were saying business owner is not really necessarily an ownable niche because it's just so vast. If there's like, look, you have to go one level down. Do you go like 5 levels down?
You should be able to define it as what is the one kind of client category, if you will. So like business owners, what is their one problem? And then how do you solve that? So what is the outcome that they can expect? And if you can say that clearly, then, then you've got your definition. The problem with something like business owners is what kind of business owners? There's the solopreneur who's just starting out, and then you've got the $100 million firm that's about to sell out. And those are completely different needs. And so that's why you can see something like business owners is not a good enough definition on its own to be a niche.
Yeah, makes sense. So you were very kind. You sent me, first of all, you sent me your book, Uncomparable, which I loved, by the way. You sent it in beautiful packaging. You were just so specific on like what my brand is and how I am myself. I give you a million credit for that, because I feel like anybody else could have easily like stuck it in a manila envelope and been like, here you go.
Oh, yeah, thanks for that. No, I appreciate design. And so the idea of just putting it in an envelope and sending it off, just I cringe thinking about that.
But so, were you always sort of that way, or did you, as you went through your marketing journey, did you sort of develop that skill to understand, like, if it's going to be a brand and it's going to be an experience, it's going to go all the way through?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a natural instinct I have. I've always really been drawn to marketing, even when I was a kid. I remember my dad had an engineering firm when I was growing up, and I would design the promotional products like these. Back when we had clip art, designing the magnets that they would like hand out, which are so cheesy at this point, but it was something that I was drawn to from the very beginning, and I don't think I realized it until I ended up in graduate school and I actually took marketing classes for the first time. But it's definitely, I think, a calling for me to be in this space. And so the branding, I just think I like things that are beautiful, which I know is not what a brand is all about. There's a lot more than that. But I think that consistency really demonstrates professionalism and that you have your act together. And it's so important. And then I've been working with advisors now for 20 years between the firm I worked with originally and then my current company. And just seeing what they've done over the years too has inspired me to level up what I've been producing as well for my own
Oh,
company.
that's great. So, among the clients that you're seeing now, are there any kind of trends or things that you're noticing in the kind of marketing that they're doing? Like you were saying before, there's AEO, which it seems like sort of consumed everything. Has that been sole focus for firms, or do you still feel like you got to be diversified and still gauge SEO and AEO and all the other channels?
I think marketing is changing really fast right now, and it does change over the years. When I first started my business in 2008, I was pretty much doing email marketing, helping with events like workshops, things like that, and then a little bit of social media because I started to do like Twitter and LinkedIn and stuff like that for my clients. And now it's 18 years later, it's completely a different game. And there's so many different areas they can go into. So right around the pandemic, people really flooded into digital marketing. And so that's where everyone was spending their time, SEO, social media, webinars, all of that. And I'm seeing now, since AI has come out, that there's this shift for marketing again, which is more back to human, so more face to face. And I think partly because people, there's so much coming at them digitally now between all the AI slop. They don't know what's real, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say, I'm pretty much not a fan of social media these days, other than like LinkedIn. That's how we met. That was great. I like the human aspect of it, but just the blasting out of content, you're just part of the noise at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really seeing more of a shift more towards human to human interaction. At the same time, I am seeing a lot of people really focusing on the answer engine optimization, AEO, because there's this real opportunity that for firms right now to optimize their websites, get mentioned out there in different publications, like what you help people do, Allie. And that makes a difference so that when I is making recommendations, they're recommending that advisor. Now, there's another piece to that, which goes back to
Okay.
niche marketing. If you're just a generalist advisor and if you're in a large market, it's going to be really hard for you to be recommended by AI because there's hundreds of other firms that they can recommend and they don't know to recommend you. So this is where I think niche marketing is going to be more important than it has been, which is you have to give AI something that makes them understand that you're different and you're for a specific type of person. So go back to business owners or it could be executives that working at different firms. In fact, that's the advisors I work with that work with in tech. So like NVIDIA is a really good example. The ones that have done website content for NVIDIA employees, because they're in the tech niche, they're getting a lot of leads from AI searches from AEO because the AI recognizes, okay, they're a specialist in this area. I'm going to recommend them. If you don't have anything special like that, and you're just talking about retirement planning, retirement income, Roth conversions, all that kind of stuff, you're up there with everybody else and it's going to be really hard for them to recommend. So I think that niche marketing is going to be a lot more important going forward. And I see this too, even with big firms. I've traditionally worked with independent advisors in the 100 million to a billion space, but a lot of those firms have been purchased by some of these aggregators out there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting to know more of the aggregators these days because they're buying up a lot of my clients.
Oh,
And they all have a real interest in niche marketing too, because they see it as well. They're like, okay, well, we're this big firm, but we need to kind of have these specialty areas as well if we want to continue to organically grow and not just grow through acquisition 100% of the time.
So there were a few things there that I wanted to pull on, but the last of which, just because it's first in my brain. So with the aggregators and their reflection on niching, do you think, are they going to embrace one niche across the firm? Is it going vertically or horizontally,
They're
or could it be
definitely
both?
more interested in the multi-niche approach. I mean, for firms that are that big, the idea of niching on one client is just impossible. And they wouldn't be very attractive when they're trying to acquire new firms. If the aggregator is only working with women in transition, let's say, and you have a firm that they want to buy that's doctor, that's not going to be a good fit. So it's not reasonable for them to focus on one particular niche. So I
Mm-hmm.
do see them interested in more of the multi-niche. And some of the clients that I work with that already were focused on a niche, when they're talking to these aggregators, the advisors are telling me that one of the reasons aggregators are interested in them is because they do have such a strong focus in a niche. So I don't know if this is true. I mean, that's just anecdotally the case, but it does seem like if you have a niche, you might be more appealing to these aggregators.
I would be curious to see. So, as we know, M&A has been crazy over the last 5 years. If,
Mm-hmm.
to a certain extent, whether that either increases valuation or whether that means you get sucked up faster. But I would love to see if that bears out.
Yeah. Someone
Yeah.
should do a study about that. Not me.
I was going to say, I don't think that we have enough time, but anybody else, I'm putting this out into the ether. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the other thing that I was going to mention, so it's interesting that you were saying the focus being on a specific niche, because even before AI and whatnot, when your book came out, you were really saying the same thing. Like, you can't aim to be the best
Mm-hmm.
because A, how do you prove that? And B, that just doesn't work for people. You really need to be specific in a certain area. So, how
Different.
did you
Mm-hmm.
get to be so prescient?
I think I just worked with so many advisors that I see the trend. I think my superpower is pattern matching and seeing where things are going pretty quickly. And around 2020, I was working with this firm, and actually it was just a solo advisor. I was helping her out. And I remember her trying to work, when she said her ideal clients, it was like 5 completely different types of clients. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, there's no way you as one person is going to be able to market effectively to any of these 5 if you're doing all of them. And at that point, it was almost out of frustration. I'm like, I'm done. We need to focus on one advisor for one type of client because that's the best way to do it. One thing I would like to give you a caveat though, if you're in a small town and there's not a lot of advisors and you're like the only game in town, you don't need to niche. There's plenty of business there. But the concept is kind of the same. If you're in a small geographic region or if you're in a niche, the idea is you're trying to fish from a smaller pond that has more of the fish that you want. And so it's kind of the same thing. So if it's a small town, you're getting well known very easily just through word of mouth. If you're in a niche, you're also getting well known through word of mouth by being with the same types of people, working with the same types, networking with them, being involved in any publications that they're reading, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how do you think people can get to that niche? So, I mean, if you were to throw out there, I seem to work best with artists who have super long ponytails and all these attributes, but there are really like 5 of them. There's no money to be gained there. How do you find a niche that's specific enough, but also then is viable for you?
So in my book, I have this exercise where you really need to brainstorm 3 different things, and it's passion, aptitude, profitability. So passion is what excites you. So that can be things that excite you in your own life, but it also can just be like what excites you about your work. Is there certain types of people that you really like to work with, or scenarios, or different types of planning or services that you like to be involved in? So
Mhm.
you can just do a whole brainstorm of that. The next one is aptitude, which is, do you have something about you that makes you different? Maybe you have like your CPA or your EA certifications, and so you're more prone to being able to offer tax planning. Or maybe you have your own personal experience, like you have a child with special needs, and so you've already kind of gone through that process and you understand it. So just kind of anything that makes your skills unique from somebody else, you just want to brainstorm that as well. And then the third piece is profitable. Out of the clients that you're working with now, who are the ones that are willing to pay for your services and can continue to pay? And so you can kind of look at those 3 and see if there's overlap on one of those. And then that can usually be a fairly good niche to choose. We actually have a niche assessment. It's
Ooh,
onniche.com/assessment.
ooh,
And it takes you through 10 different things that once you have brainstormed, like, is this a good niche or not? If you don't have access to that niche, it's not going to be a good niche for you.
mm,
So there's things like that. There's different criteria for what makes it a good niche and then what makes it a good fit for you. And you can go through that It's just an open calculator or tool that you can use to discover if that's going to be a good one. And it does take some time to just kind of like brainstorm, run it through the assessment, see how that goes, and then make some tweaks along the way. And then you should come up with something. And it should be something you're excited about and people you want to spend time with, because you're going to be, your entire business.
And thank you for creating that, because I can imagine, yeah, for people you think like, so what do I like just go in the woods and like sit with a notebook and like it comes to me, but having something that can really bounce back ideas and whatnot. I appreciate the fact that you built something like that.
You can also look at your client base, but the risk of doing that is that you'll probably come to the conclusion you should work with pre-retirees, because that's who most of your clients are. And that's not the conclusion you should come to. Even if it is pre-retirees, try to go deeper. Is there a certain industry or a certain problem or a certain company or something else that narrows it in beyond just pre-retirees? Because that is going to put you right back in the generalist category where you can't stand out.
Got it. So this may be a stupid question, but so let's say we pick pre-retirees and their problem is they need to get to that retirement marker. Then does the advisor say to themselves, well, I don't want to pick that because once you retire, basically like, well, then should you stop working with me because I only work with pre-retirees or whatnot? Do you feel like they have sort of that gap where they feel like, well, I don't want to niche too much because then I'm precluding anyone else from working with me, or it means that somebody has to leave me eventually?
Yeah, so there's two parts of that question. The first is I get that fear a lot, like, hey, if I niche, then I'm going to lose out on all this other business. When you niche, that just means that's where you're going to focus your marketing. That doesn't mean you have to stop working with other clients. So if you're getting referrals or they're coming to you through networking or relationships or however else they find you, there's nothing stopping you from working with them, continuing to work with them. And that's probably a good plan for a while anyway, because you just want clients coming in. At some point, though, the advisors that really succeed with a niche, they end up not wanting to work with anyone else because there's the marketing aspect, which makes it easier, but the operations piece becomes a lot easier as well. Because if you're just seeing the same problem over and over again, you can get your systems really dialed in so that it's just so much more efficient to serve them. I guess that goes back to my Costco answer at the beginning. You can see why I like Costco now. So I find that a lot of advisors that are successful, they're like, I wish I would have stopped taking other clients sooner because now I have to figure out what to do with these clients because they don't fit operationally with how I'm serving my clients now. But I always say, take as many clients as you want. You can take whoever you want. I'm just focusing your marketing on one particular audience. The second question, though, that you asked was about what if they kind of phase out of your niche?
Yeah.
I see that a lot with like college planning. So like, hey, if I'm helping a family college plan, how do they then stay around so that after they're an empty nester and they have more money, I don't want them to walk out the door. Your marketing to get them in doesn't mean it has to show like your entire process of how you're going to work with them for the existence of that relationship. So let's say you brought in a family, they're doing college planning. You can start saying, hey, we'll start with college planning. And then once your children are in college or starting to graduate, move on, we can start looking at your retirement plan and what that looks like. So yes, we're starting here, but my intention is to work with you throughout the rest of your life until you're through your retirement. So you can have that conversation. That doesn't have to be on your website right away because they're never going to look at your website again anyway once they become a client. Yep. So just start planting the seeds for a longer relationship ongoing.
I love that. Thank you. I want to go back to something that you had mentioned earlier, that you feel like AI is pushing more of the human to human connection. So does that mean in-person events, because that is literally human to human, or is that like webinars where it's one to many, or how are you seeing that manifest itself?
I mean, definitely more events. So not necessarily like you have to put on an event, but going to events, conferences, it depends on what your niche is. So golf tournaments, wherever you can have face-to-face, because even if you have a niche and you can kind of stand out a little bit through digital, you're just competing with everybody else out there trying to get the attention of your prospects. And it's not even other advisors. It's all those influencers who are just trying to make a living off of grabbing that attention. One way to really stand out is to meet somebody face to face. They'll remember you much more so than digitally. I'm not saying you should stop doing the digital stuff. I just think that for a while now, advisors have thought that digital is kind of the silver bullet, and it's not. And it's funny, I hate to say this, but I feel like I'm always telling people to do things like 5 years before they'll do it. So like when I first started my business in 2008, I was like, oh, you should really do social media. There's all this opportunity here. And now in 2026, people are like, I want to get onto social media. Okay, that ship has sailed. You need to go back to networking. I mean, really, the energy right now should be spent on optimizing for AI search because that's kind of the new opportunity at this moment.
Yeah.
So social
So,
media is done. Like, let's move on from that.
well, right. I mean, depending on how old you were probably in college or a young professional at that
Hmm.
time. Sorry, you missed the boat.
Yep. Good luck competing against all these other people who are making a living off of it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So, how do you work with advisors currently? And so you were saying among the AUM, like there's sort of a best fit for you, but are there any other characteristics that people should have to work with you?
Yeah, so we've been changing how we work with advisors. In the past, I was very much like a traditional marketing agency, but now with the niche marketing, we're really focused more on strategy and helping advisors with that. I would say we're best suited at this point for firms that have multiple advisors with multiple niches because you have this complexity there where you have one brand and you need everyone to stay in that brand and stay under the guidelines and the messaging. Like you don't want all these advisors going rogue. So if you're going to have firm wide marketing and then you have advisor marketing, that's kind of where we come in. It's like, okay, well, we can help these advisors understand what their marketing strategy should be for their particular niche under the umbrella of the firm. So they're not like a silo, they're contributing to the growth engine of the company, just one niche at a time. So what we do is we help with one defining their niche. I think an advisor needs to come with me with a pretty good idea of what they want because in the past when I have tried to steer them in the direction of a niche, it's not doesn't always go well because I see the opportunity, but their heart's not in it, and so it's never going to work. But really defining what their niche is, developing that strategy for them, building out plans quarterly so that they know exactly which quarter what they're going to do. So once we have a quarterly plan, we build it out where it's like week by week, here's your tasks. They have an app they go to. They just go and see what they're supposed to be doing. And then they come to us, and when they hit roadblocks, they can come to, we have office hours, they can chat with us. So we're basically supporting them on their niche every step of the way under the company umbrella, their brand and their messaging. That being said, we do work with boutique RAs and solos as well that want that need that kind of strategy and that accountability and support as well.
Love it. So it sounds like, especially with the larger firms where
Mhm.
you're part of an aggregator, but you're beneath that, that you're already working with other like marketing people. You might be working with PR people or internal comms and whatnot. So it's great that you can be part of a team, but also be that strategist in the niche.
Yeah, so the great thing about being in this position is I can recommend different resources for the advisors and I can recommend different strategies that are not things that I'm trying to sell them. I don't want to say I'm totally unbiased, but I can say, oh, well, your niche is this. So this is really a good strategy. We don't offer that, but this firm over here does, and they're going to be a really good option for you. So we can just give just our honest take on what the best strategy is. And if they're working for a bigger firm that has their own marketing department, being able to connect them with the resources that already exist as well. And sometimes I find that I'm actually kind of pushing their marketing team to be able to do more things. Like Substack is a really good
Well,
example. So I'm working with a firm, an advisor right now at a firm, and Substack was a good option. And so kind of pushing the firm to accept that or adopt that as a channel. So yeah, I'm basically the advocate for the advisor within those firms.
which is huge because I mean, among the grumbles that you hear from advisors is compliance won't let me do anything, marketing doesn't do anything for me. So having somebody who's like, no, actually, you could help with this, please. That's
Mhm.
lovely. So good for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anything about niche marketing that you feel like for an advisor, whether they're reevaluating what their niche should be or whether they're new to the profession and just starting to figure it out, what they ought to know to get themselves on a good footing?
Well, I hate to do a plug for my own book, but I do think that's a really good intro for anyone. Yeah, Uncomparable. You can get it at any online bookstore. It's in print, ebook, and audiobook. It's just really a good primer, I think, of how to think about a niche, why you should do it, how to go about choosing a niche. And there's basically a plan for the first 3 years of what you should be focusing on and to get into that niche because it does take a long time. I think that's one thing is it is not something that you are going to see clients from immediately. You need to be thinking this could take 3 years before you really start to see traction. But once you do, it makes marketing so much easier and clients just start coming to you.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing all these insights. I hope that everybody was listening and taking notes. And if not, re-listen again and do that. And if you can, go purchase the book. Uncomparable, which, by the way, so at first, being a grammar geek, I was like, isn't it incomparable? But you have to read the explanation as to why you should be uncomparable. So
that's right. Yep. It's a made up word.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks, Allie.